Hey, welcome back to the Leash Mind podcast, Mental Health and Dog Training. I'm your host, Mandy Bowtell. On today's episode, I speak with Janet Cutler of Landmark Behavior. Janet is a certified applied animal behaviorist, a certified fear-free trainer, and a certified professional dog trainer. So Janet's background is a little more interesting because she came from the academic side of things. So she learned about behavior first before getting into training. So in this episode, we really kind of touched on imposter syndrome and having the different experience, how that can mold your experience as a trainer, and really learning to lean into those insecurities and the imposter syndrome in a way that is still beneficial towards growth, and acknowledging when, we got to focus on ourselves. And we tell our clients all the time of meeting their needs, meeting their dog's needs, take time away from the dog so that we have time for ourselves. But it so rarely circles back to us. And, we never apply those things to us, even though we say it to our clients all the time. So this episode's really great. We just really touched on things that, we hear a lot, but we don't hear other individuals within our industry talking about it enough. So again, I never do the intros justice when I'm trying to explain an episode. I know you guys just bear with me. I'm growing, we're growing together. So I'll stop explaining it and let's just get into the episode. I have Janet Cutler here. Janet, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know you were one of the first people to actually apply to be on the podcast, so that makes me even more excited that you were eager to get on here and just share your story with others to hopefully help our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me.
So just getting people to know you a little bit more, getting to know your background and where you really got started, so then we can start digging into all the fun little mental health tidbits.
Sure. So I guess my behavior and training journey started from an academic side. I went off to university assuming I would get into vet school. I had planned on being a vet for a majority of my life, and discovered behavior while I was in undergrad, and then started working with a professor who did behavior. So I kind of changed my plans a little bit, and did a master's and a PhD in behavior, which was amazing, and I got to learn a lot. But through that journey, I had a dog who had a lot of behavior problems, and I
Oh,
went to get help with that.
interesting.
And I'd never really considered training or behavior, like working with
Together.
clients directly, I guess. Yeah. So I started working on these problems with my own dog, and that kind of tied in what I was doing academically with the dog side of things, and eventually turned into training and then doing behavior modification.
I love that your background, you went more from the academic side and then it just kind of snowballed. And I feel like it always does take us having our own personal experience with our own personal dog to be like, wait a second, I like this. um,
Yeah.
I want to rewind a little bit. So, where did you kind of notice that you wanted to start applying it to your dog and you noticed the behavior? What did you notice where you were just like, oh, wait, this is kind of together?
Yeah. Well, I was really lucky in that I went to university at a school where we looked at a lot of different species. So, from the beginning of kind of my grad school career, we always talked about different species and applying it to other species. So, I worked with pigs and with cows actually for my two big grad projects. And
Cool.
not with dogs at all. I did my postdoc on dogs. But I was really used to having conversations about different species and kind of just applying everything that we knew. Because at the basics, it's all generally the same. We obviously have to tweak a whole bunch when
Right.
we're working with different animals just based on their individual behavior and that kind of thing. But I was working with a trainer and really kind of trying to figure out what was going on with my own dog. And he was my first dog kind of living on my own. I'd had dogs as a child, but I'd never actually had to work on these kinds of things because my dogs actually, when I was little, all lived outside. We lived out in the country and they were
Right.
outdoor dogs.
Exactly.
So having a dog inside was even a new experience. And then one that he was really fearful of other dogs primarily. So we had a lot of
Aw.
reactivity issues and things like that. And I guess I was in grad school, not really sure where I wanted to go with it. I kind of thought I might stick around and try to be a professor or something like that. But as I was working through these problems with him, I was realizing that I was really able to see the behavior well and kind of think up new ideas. I thought the creativity around behavior modification was really intriguing to me,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just started applying what I was learning to that. It just kind of, I don't know how, snowballed into
Right.
starting to help out with that trainer and then eventually taking on my own clients and that kind of thing.
Oh, interesting. So it went from you working with your trainer and then you kind of just started to work kind of coincided with the trainer and help them kind of work on behavior things together?
Yeah. I think like a lot
Kind
of
of?
people do, I started helping friends, family, and then, friends of friends, and
Just
then it
trickled.
just kind of snowballed from there.
That's awesome. I
Exactly.
love that it's just you loved the animal side, you went in for the veterinary side, but then you were just like, "Oh, wait, this is so much cooler because behavior is pretty cool when we really pick it
It
apart and split
is.
it." I think that's why most of us get into this. And then just being able to have that and mold it into something else that's so cool, and you don't hear about that happening a lot. At least, you don't hear people sharing about it a lot. So I feel like that's really cool to have that background in there.
I think it probably happens more than we know, but,
Right, right.
yeah, I don't know how many people think they're gonna be a trainer when they're young and then go into that. I think a lot
Never.
of us go through this kind of series of different experiences and kind of just fall in love with it.
Right, exactly, and I feel like maybe it's just me, but I feel like a lot of, people that became trainers now, they all at one point in the late '80s, '90s wanted to become a vet, like, that was just what we wanted, or like a marine biologist. I remember my entire childhood, I was like, "I wanna be a marine biologist." I was terrible at math and science, there's no way that was gonna happen. So, I feel like we end up falling into something else within the realm, and so I love hearing that
Yeah.
background and how it just kind of molds into something even more beneficial to people in the future that we don't even realize.
Yeah.
So, with all of that, how you got started in all of this, how was the journey of just figuring out where you wanted to land? And I'm sure the imposter syndrome that came with all of that, since you were coming from a different background than most of us start off with. There's kind of two questions in that.
Yeah, there was I'll try to answer both of them. There was
Okay.
there was a lot for sure. So academia kind of breeds imposter syndrome into people, in my opinion. A lot of people that I was in grad school with, had to struggle through that as well. There's this feeling, and I experienced it myself, where when I was young, somebody with a PhD was this brilliant person. They were so smart. And then I got in and kind of felt like I fooled them or something, or just a normal person. And,
You're like, "How did
didn't
I
think of
belong
myself
here?
that
How'd
way
I
by
get
any
here?"
means.
Yeah.
Exactly. And all your kind of supervisors and everyone, they know so much. And you always kind of feel like in school, you're being asked questions and you're expected to regurgitate information or apply it in some way and kind of always have the answer. And that
Mhm.
expectation of kind of always having the answer has been with me for a really long time. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that contributed to it when I was in school. But then when I got out of school and when I started actually working on training and working on behavior modification, I felt like I knew I had all of the kind of the science behind me and all of the basics of the information about behavior and those kinds of things that I needed to know, but I
Right.
didn't have the experience that a lot of people had. So I would go out and compare myself to people who had been doing this for 10 years and felt like I shouldn't be contributing to that field just because I didn't have that level of experience.
Oh,
So it can
interesting.
be hard kind of going from both directions. I know a lot of people struggle or want to learn more about kind of the science behind it too. So it can go from both sides.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the times we hear people talk about imposter syndrome, experience is always up there, but it is also knowledge and not feeling like we know enough
Mhm.
or getting in our own heads of I shouldn't be up. I mean, hello, I'm doing this podcast and I'm like, why am I talking about mental health? Like I have my own struggles, but I think it's just knowing we feel passionately about something and not letting all the other noise get in our heads when there's a reason we feel passionately about this. There's a reason we want to learn more about it. And there's a reason we want to help other people
Mhm.
about it. And we wouldn't feel all these things if we didn't love the topic and learning more about it. And I think it just always comes hand in hand with anything that you feel passionate about. And I'm learning that more so this year in just like, if it scares me, there's probably a reason that like I want to do it for a good reason. And it's a good feeling, and learning to roll in with that fear. It's kind of like, I don't know if you snowboard, but snowboarding, it's terrifying when you first learn. I remember my husband was trying to teach me, and he's like, "You gotta lean into it. You gotta lean in. And your first instinct is to lean back, and then you fall." And so I've been learning to lean into more
I'm
when it's
still at the falling
scary.
stage.
I am too. I'm not good at it at all.
Snowboard.
Yes. But yeah, no,
But
I
no,
think,
I
yeah.
completely agree. It's something we keep experiencing and keep kind of having different levels of. And even if you kind of get over it in one area, there's a new area around the corner.
Yes. Oh my God. I've never even thought of that. There are totally different levels to imposter syndrome. And it's like every accomplishment, there's a new hump and a new challenge facing
Exactly.
you of you just getting in your own head of, okay, I accomplished this. That seems really daunting. I don't want to go on to the next step. But it's just, we're not going to grow if we're not feeling that fear and leaning into it and accomplishing it. Because every time we do accomplish that, we feel better. That's just like, you getting your degree and then choosing to move on to training and then getting your fear-free certification, getting your training certification. It's just every single step of the way. I'm sure you felt one level of imposter syndrome or another, right?
Absolutely. But and it's funny because looking back, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but then the next
No.
thing does seem like a huge deal. But I hope and I think that we get a little bit better at getting over that imposter syndrome every time we do. And I hope that when I'm, 20, 30 years down the road, that it won't happen as much. I'm sure it still will, but just not to the same level.
Oh, right. I think it does come with, we gain that more confidence, and we work with more clients and we get more experience and we meet more people, talk with more people that have the same feelings we have, that it's like, okay, this is normal. It's part of
Mhm.
growing in entrepreneurship and expanding our education and our business. It's gonna happen. And I think for years we've heard that imposter syndrome is a bad thing and that we should ignore it and bunker it down and not give it the light it needs so that we can kind of grow. Did that make sense? Was that a little too metaphorical?
No, it does, and that's part of the reason why I was so excited when I saw that you were starting this podcast, because I think it's such an important conversation in this area, and I think we lose a lot of people in the behavior and training field due to this, and because there aren't enough conversations about it. So it's thank you so much for starting this, because I think it's such an important conversation just about mental health in general, but also about imposter syndrome, because I think we really lose a lot of amazing people in the field due to this.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I feel like every time someone tells me that they're benefiting from the podcast and they like talking about this more, it's just reassurance to me in my imposter syndrome that I have that, like, okay, yes, this is the right thing. People do need this. They are benefiting from it. So thank you. I really appreciate the R plus.
One of the good ways to get over this kind of thing too is to talk about it and to have that community that is experiencing it as well, because I think that makes everyone feel better. So, if people have communities that they can go to in their area for like different groups of trainers or talk to local trainers, that kind of thing, but even larger communities where you may not be able to actually physically interact with people, but at least hear that they're having the same experiences. It feels less isolating for sure.
For sure, and it's beautiful to see that happening now in the last, I wanna say, oh god, we're in 2023. So the last 3 years, um, it's just I've noticed more, like, Facebook groups and memberships and mentorships happening where people are just trying to work to lift each other up so that we're not competition, we're not hating on one another, we're not saying, "Oh, this person's doing the same thing I'm doing," because, like I covered in episode 2 with, Veronica, there are so many dogs out there, there are so many animals out there that need help, and there are so many
Mhm.
people that can help that, it's not competition. We should really just be helping one another and finding ways to network, because we can't help everyone. We can't save every dog or animal out there, but being able to network, refer, pick ideas, brainstorm with each other, and not feel that level of competition and work through the imposter syndrome with other people that might be feeling it is huge. And, when I was actively training from like 2014 to 2018, like I never saw that. I never wanted to ask, my superiors, my mentors, that kind of stuff because I figured, well, they must not encounter that because we don't talk about it.
Or I don't know what I'm doing because I feel this way. So you're embarrassed to ask those questions. Yep.
Right, exactly, and the embarrassment always comes with it. It's funny, I was preparing for this episode yesterday, and I was thinking about it, like, when I went through my training program, I realized we never, ever talked about mental health or struggles we may encounter while we're getting our education and becoming trainers and not feeling competent enough. Never talked about that. All it was here's behavior, here's how we handle it, this is how we train, but you never talk about the human side on our side of it. It's a little bit on how to talk to clients, a little bit on how to run your business, but never the like stress and like actually building from the ground up with yourself, with your business and keeping your mental health intact with that.
Yeah, it's such a hard, I mean, not only the personal side of it, but it's a field where you're dealing with people. And if you are having struggling yourself, it can be hard to deal with other people, but you also don't get taught how to, even if you go through some kind of a course, the majority of them is just as you said, is kind of on how to deal with the dog training, the dog behavior. And not, I mean, for myself, because I do mostly behavior consults, it's, I'm working primarily with the people and it's really communication and it's
Right.
empathy and it's working with those people. And there's so much that goes along with that that you have to learn as well that I don't think most people go into the field prepared for. And it can be
No.
so, so hard.
Well, and it's, we go into this field because we do empathize with the owners and the dogs and
Of
wanting to
course.
better their lives, but we don't really know the extent of what we're taking on and the trying to think of the word, the like life preserver we are for them when they are going through the training because we're the professional they're seeking out. And in our own minds, we're like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't think I am the professional. Like I am a green baby trainer. I don't know what I'm doing. But in
Yeah.
their eyes, they see you that way. And so having the compassion, the empathy, and also the professional brain of being able to, figure out the behavior, not overthink things and help them and having boundaries with them. There's so many factors in that. And then compassion fatigue hits us. And then we're burnt out and then don't want to do emails, don't want to train. And then I don't want to do it anymore. What happened to me? And I see that happen so many times to so many friends that it's really disheartening to
Mm.
see that. I'm curious. So, when you decided to get into behavior, when did you decide to get your training certification and take that on? Because that's a whole other beast to really dive into.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember when I first got my CPDT. It was back when there was no KA, KSA, so it was
Oh,
pre all of
wow.
that. So it was quite a while ago. I
Okay.
think, it was when I initially started getting into training, and I was doing classes and those kinds of things. So it was probably 15 at least years ago, probably more
Okay.
than that actually. So I went and did that. It wasn't online. You had to go and do it in a building and there's
I
a lot
remember
of
that.
restrictions
Yeah.
around it. It's a lot. Yeah. But yeah, so I've had that for quite a long time. I did that kind of earlier on in my career after
Oh,
I'd
okay.
reached whatever their qualifications were that you needed to apply for that. And then I waited a really long time to get my cab certification,
Why
mostly
was
because of
that?
imposter syndrome.
Really?
I mean, in order to get the cab one, you have to have your PhD. So I had my PhD for a while. I knew I wanted to do it, but you have to have some publications, which I had already, and you have to write up some case studies. And I think what was holding me back was mostly the case studies and worrying that the information I put into it wouldn't be enough for those that were reading it and kind of deciding who could actually become one. And I just really held myself back. And there was no reason to. It was just my getting over myself. And finally, one day I decided, I'm going to go for this and get it. I mean, it's a lot of work to put the application together,
Right.
but no, I just needed to actually do the thing. So, yeah, that one was kind of the hardest one for me.
Oh, I can totally see that happening. And I feel like just the act of doing is so much in itself. That's, I've been reminding myself that for weeks now of just, I wanted to do the podcast. I wanted to get this going. But if I kept overthinking it, I know I wouldn't have done it. And for the longest time, my husband's like, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just get it out there. Just pick the name, pick what you're going to do, and we'll go from there. And I'm like, go, that's not prepared enough. And I need time to plan and overthink it, though.
I am the exact same way. So I started my podcast last spring. I think I took a break over the summer, but I was the same way. I had meant to start it for a long, long time. And even with so a lot of what I'm doing right now is kind of creating content about the science behind behavior and training for dog trainers, for behavior consultants, that kind of thing. So they've got access to that because a lot of the times we don't. But
Ooh.
I held myself back for so long to do that kind of thing just because I didn't have every little thing lined up perfectly. And I spent so much time learning instead of actually doing.
And it's good to do the learning, but I think like learning and doing is totally possible. That's
Yes.
what I've been doing. And I'm like, okay, we're just going to learn as we go and we'll see who likes this. I want to hear more about your podcast and how you're working to work more with trainers on that. I want to break that open a little more.
Sure. It's called the Behaviory. Really, when I took a break from doing behavior consulting, that kind of thing, really right around when the pandemic hit. Mostly
Ooh,
because I had a baby right at the beginning of it. So
my
obviously
gosh.
we were isolating and kind of doing all the things. And we had moved to a completely new area about 4 or 5 hours away from where we used to live, 8 months or so before the pandemic. So I kind of had to restart my business almost a little
Those are
while ago.
huge life
Um,
changes.
they are, yeah.
Like that is stress inducing
So
right there.
yeah, baby during the beginning of the pandemic is not something I would recommend, but but I kind of restarted and kind of gradually started taking on clients again. I only have so much time to spend with clients, and I thought that I could make more of a difference by kind of helping to educate trainers and behavior consultants as well. And since I have the science background, one of the things that was always holding me back when I was kind of doing consults, and something I had imposter syndrome about, was I would say, oh, there's science about this and science about this. And I would know the high level kind of overview of the science. But I always had this like nagging fear that somebody would ask me for details and I wouldn't know what the details were, which is ridiculous because I mean, my education was in these topics. So I
Right.
know the science well. I just had to kind of refresh myself. And also a huge part of my degrees was also in epidemiology, which is in like where you learn about study design and statistics and all those kinds of things. So I can really
So
look at
you
a paper and
know.
kind of tell if it's well designed. I know
Yeah.
that stuff, but I was always worrying about that. And then I realized one day, ridiculously, that I could provide that level of knowledge. I know how to look for the papers. I know how to figure out if it's good science or not. And I could be providing that information to not only my clients, but if I'm helping other trainers, other behavior consultants learn about this science, then they can help even more people. So in addition to kind of working with clients myself, I've been starting to focus on that and putting out content for that. And it's just kind of, it's still in its baby stages of a business, but it's starting.
You're starting. Yeah, and that's what is
Yeah.
important is just starting and getting out there. I love that you're doing that, and that is something that, trainers, behaviorists, they need that extra layer of support, and that's just another thing, another source that they can refer out to the,
Mhm.
clients and other people to listen to, and it's just another form of networking. It's awesome. I love that you're doing that. I will put a link in the show
Exactly.
notes so people can find that and subscribe and start listening to that
Yes.
for you.
Yeah, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Good. That's what matters. If you're not having fun with it, then do something else. But
Yeah.
I feel like
Agreed.
I talk to so many trainers and they all say like, "Oh, it's so good you're doing the podcast. Like, I always want to do that, but I have this and there's this and there's this." And, I've been saying that same spiel for the last 5, 6 years, and I finally went forward with it. So, to anyone listening, if you guys are even debating doing a podcast, like Janet said, like I said, just start it. Just get the
Do it.
foundation. Just do it because it doesn't need to be perfect. If you wait for anything to be perfect, you're never going to do it because it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be exactly how you want it to be. And then it's not going to be fun because you're just trying to adjust and tweak and perfect everything. Yeah, I could go into a whole spiel about that.
Yeah. Well, not even I took a course before doing mine because that's what I do. I always like to learn everything first and, learned all the information, but I have learned, I mean, and that helped me get it going for sure. But I've learned so much more by actually doing the podcast and,
Yes.
learning how to edit and all the things that come along with that. You just kind of learn as you go. And as long as you are willing to learn, I think anyone can do it.
It's like we're training ourselves almost. I don't know how you've gone about it, but, like, every time I've, learned how to, edit or learn how to splice something and do that, I reinforce myself with, like, "Okay, good job, because 'cause you've never done that before, and you did that, and let's take a break." I wanna talk more about the mental health side of everything we just talked about, your journey as, getting your PhD, getting your training certification, just getting all of those and having a baby and the pandemic. It just life has been crazy. So,
Mhm.
how have you prioritized your mental health throughout that rainbow of change and growth overall? I know it's a big
I've gone
question.
through periods yes, I've gone through periods where I've been fantastic at it and periods where I've been horrible at it. So I think where my best mental health was probably was last summer. I decided last spring that I was going to run a marathon, and I hadn't run in
Hey,
years.
that's huge.
So I started training for that, and I think for me, running and doing kind of physical exercise and really prioritizing time for me because I have 3 kids, actually, so with
Whew.
that many kids in the house, it can be a lot,
Right.
so having that time for me and really making sure that I made time, and because I had this training schedule that I really had to finish in order to actually complete the marathon, it forced me to do that, and I think I felt the best I have in years when I was doing that, but I think when kind of going through all of those things, it was really about, figuring out what I needed while also keeping in mind the needs of the various people around me, and
Ah.
just trying to spend some time on my family, but also on me. And I honestly am not great at that. So I'm trying to be a bit better. I kind of, this fall and winter, I let all that stuff slide and didn't spend as much time on me. And it kind of, you can tell when you're not doing that or when you're not, whatever your thing is that helps you. You may not realize it as you kind of slide away from that. And then one day you'll kind of, and actually, but when I was thinking about what we were going to be talking about today, I was like, wow, I really was a lot better when I was getting out there and exercising more. So I need to do that more
Well,
because
it's
it does
good
help me a lot.
that you have that kind of reference point of like, okay, we know this is like peak Janet. We know that this is the good
Yeah.
vibe and we know how to get there. We fell off of it a little bit and we can get back there. That's knowing that is
Yeah.
huge. I feel like you're talking directly to me right now because I've been in the same boat. And I think that's the thing, people see other people being successful and they're like, oh, they must have all these systems in place and they must have this routine. It's some days I have that and some days it
Yeah.
works. And then some days I wake up. It's perfect example. Yesterday I woke up and I was just like, it was my Monday. I wasn't feeling great about it. Just moved through the day, got things done, existed. That was fine. But then this morning I was energized, recharged. I started my day two different ways. So yesterday, I started my day looking at my cell phone immediately, did not prioritize myself, spent
Hmm.
a good 2 hours scrolling, then was like, oh God, it's 7 o'clock. Now I need to get going. And then rushed through my day, was in a bad mood the rest of the day. Didn't my husband came out and he was like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, I don't want to talk. And he was just like, oh, okay. And I'm just like, don't know why, not the mood today. But then today, entirely different. And it's just a matter of how I started my day. I, took care of a couple things I needed to take care of, took care of myself, read a little bit. And it's just finding those ways to, okay, this wasn't a good day, not going to dwell on it. Next day can be better. And just knowing that like we can
Mhm.
change it, it takes time and figuring out systems that work. And I think it's good idea to have when you're starting your day. Okay, there's plan A, B, C of based on how I wake up for ABC. So if I wake up this way, I'm going to accommodate myself this way. And it's all about balance and counterbalance. And I think that's something that as trainers and professionals in the training industry, we just don't think about that because it's always about taking care of the clients, taking care of the dogs, taking care of everyone else but ourselves. And then,
Mhm.
they're like, why am I burnt out? Why am I exhausted? Why do I hate my job and don't want to do this anymore? Well, I could tell you every single reason why, and it probably starts with how you're starting your day.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because a huge part of our job is making sure that those needs are met for our clients, for their pets.
Yes.
And then we don't think about it for ourselves. So we need to, sometimes I'm kind of needing to make myself the dog and think about what I would do if somebody else was kind of giving me advice on how I should be handling myself. And maybe I'm exaggerating, but really we need to kind of treat people and treat ourselves the way we might when we're working with our clients, because we're really worrying about what their needs are. And we know that if we don't meet those basic needs, then we're going to see these behavior problems popping up. We're going to see these training problems popping up. But then we get surprised when it happens in ourselves or frustrated with ourselves.
Yes, I was just oh my gosh, I feel like I cover this in so many of my, interviews, but I know I was just talking about this, a few weeks ago with, Gio and Taylor from Smart Bitch Dog Training, and I was just saying how, we work really hard to accommodate our clients and their animals and meet their needs, but then when it comes back to us, that kindness does not make it back to us, and we rarely, like, think of, like, "Okay, what's the antecedent here for me?" And how is my behavior gonna change? No, that never happens because we're just like, "It's fine, we'll just put our head down and get through it." And that's you're gonna burn out so fast, and I feel like that's how I was for the last 2.5 years of just putting my head down, getting through it, but not feeling happy about life, not enjoying what I am doing, and you should enjoy what you're doing.
You should, for sure. And the quality of your work and whatever the work
Yes.
is better when you're liking it and when you're taking care of yourself too.
Oh, 100%. There are plenty of instances where I can think where I wasn't taking care of myself when I was a trainer and I would show up to a session and I would just be irritated, didn't want to answer all the questions, kind of just move through the motions, got back in my car, pissed off, drive in traffic, get to the next client and just repeat it and just get on that hamster wheel of, okay, I'm just moving through it. And then I would wonder why I hated dog training or why I only liked
Mhm.
like one of my clients when it's like, okay, I need to take care of myself a little bit. And I think it goes without saying though, but maybe it does need to be said for those of us that are in this industry and in the training realm, it's hard finding ways to prioritize ourselves because one way or another, we're
Mhm.
always doing it with our animals. And that's not a bad thing because, we chose this field because we love animals. Clearly, we like that connection and having that relationship, but not everything needs to be about our dog or our cat or our bird or horse, whatever. There have
Mhm.
been plenty of times where I'm like, oh, I feel like going on a walk. And then I look at Fern, my dog, and I'm like, well, she could benefit from a walk too. But then that's not enjoyable for me because I am having to be aware of my surroundings. I'm having to, treat her if she sees a trigger. I'm having to be on. And so it's not relaxing. And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people will be like, well, it's enjoyable for me to go for a hike or a walk with my dog. And it's like, it can be, but you're still having
Yeah.
to have that trainer brain on just a little bit, even.
Yeah, especially for those of us that do work with, problem behaviors, you're always aware of, what could develop, or you're always on the lookout for those things.
Yes.
And that for me, I mean, my one dog has some back issues, so she can't run with me. And my other dog last summer was under a year, so I wasn't taking her running long distances. So that was like it was me time. I
You had
didn't
that
take my
perfect.
dogs. They had their separate
Yeah.
time. Yes, exactly. And now that's become my me time because that is
Oh.
my time to think. That is my time to be clear. So, yeah, it adds that extra time in, but I think you're exactly right. Sometimes you just need to be thinking about you and to be in your own mind and not paying attention to everything that's going around you. And I think that's really important too.
But it's so hard to think like, "Okay, I
So
should
hard.
do this." Like, for example, like, I finally am able to be back in my garden after having foot surgery, and I can go walk around in there, and that it's funny, I live in Oregon, and so, like, we have winter for, like, a good, 9 months out of the year. It's very cold and
I'm in
rainy, and
Canada. I,
oh,
I
yeah, you
understand.
get me. And so when we finally get, like, a little warm weather and sunshine, I'm just like, "Yes,
Mhm.
this is my time." Like, I get to be in my garden, and so from, like, May to October, I have that time of, like, okay, I get to go play in my garden during my breaks, during work, and that is my time. I do not take sometimes I'll take Fig and Fern out there with me, but usually I'm having to watch them and be hyper vigilant, so I'm just like, "I'm gonna
Mhm.
go decompress. I'm going to go read my book in a hammock and not talk or think about anybody else. And, it's not like I'm doing that for an hour or two. I'm doing that for maybe 10, 20 minutes. And that's enough of a reset for
Mhm.
me to get out of the thinking work, thinking of everyone else kind of brain. And that's something that I don't think a lot of us take the time to pause and do, to just give our brain
Mhm.
a second to like focus on ourselves.
And I always have to remind myself when I'm doing stuff like that, that I tell my clients, especially like happy clients and those kinds of things, you need a break because you aren't going to enjoy them all the time. Sometimes you just need that little break and that lets you enjoy them a little bit more, throughout the rest of the day. And I kind of have to remind myself of that too, that little breaks from pets, from children can be really good and make you appreciate them even more if you get that little kind of quiet time.
Oh, from partners, spouse, like, same
Yep.
situation.
That's what.
Well, yeah, you're so right, though. It always comes back to, we tell our clients all these things, but we don't apply it to ourselves because you're so
Mhm.
right. That is high say, sis, I'm coming in here. Um, it's that we tell our clients, take a break from your puppy, take a break from your dog. Don't feel like you need to always be with them. But we never do that for ourselves. And it's just like,
Mhm.
why is that? We know that positive reinforcement works for everyone. We know behavior works for everyone. Everything we're applying to our clients and our dogs can be applied to us, but
Mhm.
that bridge just never gets crossed. And so I feel like something I hear a lot about this podcast is just a lot of people saying, like, oh, the way you explain that, like, I don't know why I needed to hear it this way, but you're so right. I don't prioritize myself. I don't take an hour lunch break for myself. I don't prep
Mhm.
meals so that I'm setting myself up for success. And yet we tell our clients all the time, all the rainbow of ways to set ourselves up for success, yet we don't do it for ourselves. And how do we expect ourselves to grow and get ahead if we're not doing that?
Mhm. And it's just remembering to do that too.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it comes and goes. Some days it's just chaos and we got to just get through it. But then I think there are other times where it's like, okay, I need time to pause. And sometimes that happens after burnout. Sometimes it happens before. It's learning to kind of just lean into the moment and be kind to ourselves because I know for
Yeah.
my case, like, that is not something I have done in the past. I'm always very harsh and mean to myself of like, "Why can't you just do this?
Mhm.
Why can't you work through this?" And that's a great way to get burnt out even faster.
Yeah. Completely agree, and I've done that myself too.
You wouldn't be human if you didn't.
Yeah.
So, everything that we have talked about, oh my god, we've touched on so many good little nuggets that I feel like people are really gonna be like, "Oh my god, you're talking directly to me. This is my life." And so I feel like a lot of people are gonna find this beneficial. But is there any advice that you would give anyone that is, just getting started, whether that be in behavior or training or finding the path they wanna go down right now?
Yeah, I think when you're first starting out, it's really trying to figure out what you actually like. So trying out a few things, maybe working with a mentor or something like that, and really figuring out what areas you like and you dislike to try to set yourself up for success. And I think having a mentor to talk to or a colleague to talk to, or, what we were talking about at the beginning, where it's really important to have that communication. And I think I've been really lucky, at least up until now, to have people that I could talk to and kind of bounce ideas off of. And I think everybody gets better for that. But really having that opportunity, I think, can help decrease the chances of burnout and really setting up some boundaries for yourself. Because when you're first starting, you want to get all the experience and you don't want to say no to anything. And you kind of are a little bit unsure. So you say yes to everything so you can get that experience. But it's so easy to get overwhelmed with all of that. So, kind of taking baby steps, working your way up, and not being afraid to ask for help if you need it. And I think some people sometimes get themselves into situations where they're taking on clients that they're not really comfortable with, or they're put into situations where they're not really comfortable. So being able to say no to those situations, but also if you need help going and getting it so that you kind of feel a bit more confident and you don't feel bad about what you're doing.
Oh, I love that. Yes, yes, yes. It's just in I having the boundaries set, whether it's in the very beginning or, a few months, few years of starting your business of, I didn't like this experience with this client. I don't want to encounter a client
Mhm.
like that again. So let me set up my intake protocol in a way where clients like that might filter through or be able to be referred out so that you can find your
Mhm.
exact client, your exact niche of people that you want to work with. Because that's something that I think a lot of us don't consider is not every client is going to be our client. Maybe it's the way we
Mhm.
teach, the way we talk, it's not right for somebody, and I think that works for oh my god, naughty, naughty cat right now. But he's just clawing at my chair. But no, it's we just forget that oh, you made me lose my train.
You were talking about taking on clients and not always having the ones you want.
Yes, and I think that it's just a matter of learning that, and that is something we learn as we go, and
Mhm.
you're not gonna be able to accommodate everyone, and that is okay. And I think that's something that
It
a lot
is.
of us, we were never taught. We were just taught, take the clients, they'll come in, and this is how you handle every situation. When it's like, that is not how it actually works. And some people may not like the way you teach, and the communication just may not be there. And so, having the
Mhm.
boundaries and the protocols in place so that you're protecting yourself, but also you're not frustrating someone that is just trying to get help with a trainer and you just may not be the person for them. It speeds it up for you and for
Yeah.
them, and just having that peace of, okay, I know that I'm not going to get these kind of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we have covered so much. It's just this episode has already been so beneficial just to me, and being able to talk through this with you. It reassures everything I've been feeling and thinking. And I hope that's what our listeners take away, because talking through this with other people has helped me be reassured in the imposter syndrome and the growth and the struggles that we all feel that. And I think the more we
Mhm.
hear that, the more we'll feel comfortable and confident in our growth without feeling like, I'm not here, someone else is here, I'm not getting where they are. It takes time, but we're all
Yeah,
experiencing it.
absolutely does. And I think if everybody is thinking about these kinds of things and willing to have these conversations, it brings everybody up. It kind of
Yes.
improves the profession on the whole. So I think it's very valuable.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Janet. It has been such a pleasure talking with you, and I hope to have you on for another episode, maybe next season.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you found this podcast helpful, you like what we're doing here at The Leash Mind, leave a comment, subscribe, tag us on social media. Just give us a little R plus, and we'll be back with another episode.